If you believe your silence is the most powerful thing you can offer after emotional disappointment, it may be time to look deeper. Silence can create distance, it can create curiosity, it can even create temporary reflection. But silence alone is not transformation. And when it comes to your emotional well being, especially after heartbreak or stress, what truly changes your life is not how quiet you become, but how internally steady you learn to be. Many people think stepping back is the ultimate move. You stop calling, you stop checking their social media, you resist the urge to send that late night message. On the surface, this looks strong, and sometimes space is absolutely necessary. Just like the body needs rest after injury, the mind and nervous system need space after emotional strain. But here is the important distinction. Are you resting to heal, or are you withdrawing in hope of being noticed? There is a significant difference. When silence is fueled by pain, it keeps your nervous system activated. You may not be texting them, but internally, you are still watching, waiting, wondering. Your heart rate subtly increases when your phone lights up. Your sleep becomes lighter. Your appetite shifts. Your focus weakens. This is not just emotional, it is biological. Emotional stress activates the same systems in your body that respond to physical threat. Cortisol rises, muscles tense. Your breathing becomes shallow without you realizing it. Over time, this chronic activation affects your overall health. You may experience headaches, digestive discomfort, fatigue, or even lowered immunity. That is why this conversation is not just about relationships. It is about your long-term well-being. True emotional strength is not about pretending you do not care. It is about learning how to care without abandoning yourself. When you move from reactive silence to emotional self-containment, something shifts inside your body. Instead of waiting for an outcome, you begin to regulate your own internal state. You become less focused on what they are doing and more focused on how you are feeling. That awareness alone lowers stress. It returns your nervous system to balance. Emotional self-containment does not mean coldness. It does not mean suppressing tears or ignoring memories. It means allowing feelings to move through you without letting them control your decisions. Think of it like strengthening a muscle. At first, it feels uncomfortable. You want to reach out, you want reassurance, you want closure. But each time you pause and choose alignment over impulse, you are building resilience. Resilience is not dramatic, it is quiet. It shows up when you choose to go for a walk instead of replaying old conversations. It shows up when you go to the gym, even though motivation is low. It shows up when you call a friend instead of isolating yourself. These small decisions regulate your nervous system. They tell your brain that you are safe, that you are moving forward, and safety is powerful. When your system feels safe, your thoughts become clearer. You stop obsessing over timelines. You stop measuring your worth by someone else's attention. You stop counting the days of no contact as if they are a scoreboard. Instead, you begin to notice something deeper. You notice that your identity is expanding beyond the relationship. This expansion is healing. Your sleep improves because your mind is not racing at night. Your digestion improves because your stress levels decrease. Your posture changes because you are not carrying invisible tension in your shoulders. Even your voice can soften. When the body is not bracing for emotional impact, it relaxes. This is where real power begins. It is not in making someone miss you. It is in becoming emotionally stable enough that you no longer need to be missed in order to feel valuable. When you stop trying to provoke a reaction, you reclaim enormous psychological energy. That energy can be redirected toward your health, your goals, your purpose. You begin eating more consistently. You hydrate properly. You return to hobbies that once brought you peace. You focus on building routines that strengthen your mind and body. And here is something important to understand. Your nervous system is highly sensitive to uncertainty. When you are emotionally tied to someone's unpredictable behavior, your body stays on alert. That alertness feels like anxiety. But when you accept that their choices are outside your control, your system settles. Acceptance is not weakness, it is regulation. Regulation improves immunity. It improves concentration. It reduces inflammation. These are not abstract ideas. Chronic emotional stress has measurable physical effects. By choosing internal steadiness, you are literally improving your health. You may still think about them. That is normal. Memories do not disappear overnight. But instead of spiraling, you observe the memory, take a steady breath, and return your attention to something constructive. This is emotional discipline. And discipline is deeply calming. The goal is not to become indifferent. The goal is to become anchored. Anchored people do not chase reassurance. They do not monitor someone's behavior to feel secure. They do not craft social media posts hoping to send hidden messages. They simply live. They wake up. They move their bodies. They nourish themselves. They work. They connect with others. They sleep. This simplicity is powerful. When your identity is no longer orbiting around someone else's validation, your body responds with relief. That relief feels like lightness. It feels like breathing fully again. It feels like clarity returning after a fog. And this is where many people misunderstand strength. Strength is not withholding communication to trigger a reaction. Strength is withholding emotional dependence. Strength is saying internally, I value my peace more than I value uncertainty. That statement alone can change your health trajectory, because when you stop outsourcing your peace, you begin building it from within. You begin asking different questions. Instead of asking, how do I make them feel something? You begin asking, how can I feel grounded today? That shift moves your focus from external control to internal stability. Internal stability reduces anxiety. It improves decision making. It enhances self-respect, and self-respect changes everything. When you operate from self-respect, your standards rise naturally. You no longer tolerate inconsistency because you understand its impact on your nervous system. You recognize how unpredictability affects your sleep, your mood, your productivity. You choose consistency, not just because it feels good emotionally, but because it supports your health. This is emotional maturity. It is calm, it is steady, it does not need to announce itself. If the person reaches out, you respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. If they do not, you continue forward. You do not spiral into self-doubt. You do not interpret silence as a verdict on your worth. You understand that someone else's clarity is not something you can control, and control is the key word here. Stoic thinking, in its healthiest form, teaches us to focus only on what we can control. Your habits, your reactions, your character, your boundaries. When you internalize this, your energy shifts. You stop defending your value. You stop over-explaining your intentions. You stop negotiating for consistency. Instead, you observe. You pay attention to how you feel around someone, calm or anxious, secure or uncertain, energized or drained. Your body gives you data. When you learn to listen, you make healthier choices. And healthy choices compound over time. This is not about revenge. It is not about emotional games. It is about refinement. When you refine yourself after disappointment, you transform pain into discipline. You turn heartbreak into clarity. You use discomfort as a signal for growth rather than a trigger for reaction. Your nervous system thanks you for that. Because every time you choose calm over chaos, your body learns that stability is possible. Your mind learns that you can survive disappointment without collapsing. Your heart learns that it can feel deeply without losing direction. That is the beginning of real freedom. Take a slow breath right now. Notice your shoulders. Notice your jaw. If they are tense, gently release them. This is what emotional self-containment feels like. Not forced, not rigid, just steady. Let us continue by looking more closely at what happens inside your body when you shift from emotional reactivity to internal steadiness. This is where the transformation becomes measurable, not just philosophical. When you live in a state of emotional uncertainty, your nervous system stays in what is often called a heightened stress response. Your brain scans for threat. It interprets delayed replies, unclear communication, or emotional distance as potential danger. Even if the situation is not physically unsafe, your body does not fully distinguish between emotional and physical threat. The same stress pathways activate. Your heart beats a little faster. Your breathing becomes shallow. Stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline circulate more frequently. In short bursts, this response is helpful. It sharpens awareness and prepares you for action. But when it continues for weeks or months, it exhausts you. Chronic stress affects sleep quality. You may fall asleep tired but wake up feeling unrested. It affects digestion. You may notice bloating, changes in appetite, or stomach discomfort. It can even weaken your immune response, making you more susceptible to colds and infections. Over time, it contributes to inflammation in the body, which is linked to many long-term health challenges. Now consider the opposite. When you practice emotional self-containment, when you stop chasing reassurance and instead focus on regulating your own responses, your nervous system begins to shift toward balance. This balanced state is often referred to as the parasympathetic response, sometimes called the rest and restore mode. In this state, your heart rate steadies, your breathing deepens, your digestion improves, your body repairs itself more efficiently. This is not just emotional improvement, it is biological recovery. Internal steadiness reduces unnecessary stress signals. When you accept that you cannot control another person's clarity, timing, or feelings, your brain stops spending energy trying to solve an unsolvable puzzle. That mental relief allows your body to conserve resources for healing and growth. You may notice small changes first. You wake up with slightly more energy. You feel less tension in your chest. Your thoughts slow down at night instead of racing. These are signs that your system feels safer. Safety is foundational to resilience. Resilience is not about being unaffected by pain. It is about recovering more quickly. When your nervous system is regulated, you bounce back from disappointment without staying stuck in it. You process emotion, but you do not drown in it. Here is something practical you can begin today. When you notice emotional activation, pause. Take a slow breath in through your nose for 4 seconds. Hold for 4. Exhale gently for 6. Repeat this 5 times. This pattern signals your nervous system that there is no immediate threat. It lowers heart rate and reduces stress hormones. It is simple but powerful. Pair that with physical movement. A 20 to 30-minute walk outdoors can significantly reduce stress levels. Gentle strength training, stretching, or yoga can release stored tension in muscles that tighten during emotional strain. When your body relaxes, your mind follows. Nutrition also matters during emotional recovery. Under stress, many people either overeat or lose appetite. Aim for balanced meals that include protein, fiber, and healthy fats. Stay hydrated, limit excessive caffeine, which can amplify anxiety. These are not dramatic changes, but they create stability from the inside out. As you strengthen your body, your mind becomes clearer, and with clarity comes discernment. Instead of asking, "Why hasn't she reached out?" you begin asking, "Does this connection align with my long-term well-being?" That question shifts you from reaction to evaluation. It shifts you from urgency to awareness. When you are emotionally reactive, you may accept inconsistent behavior because you fear losing the connection. But when you are internally steady, you prioritize consistency because you understand its impact on your health. You realize that mixed signals are not just confusing, they are physiologically draining. You begin to value calm interactions over intense ones. You recognize that drama is not passion. Stability is not boredom. Emotional maturity feels different than emotional intensity, but it is far more sustainable. This is where your standards evolve naturally. You are no longer impressed by temporary affection if it is followed by distance. You are no longer swayed by apologies that are not supported by changed behavior. You observe patterns. You listen to your body's response around someone. Do you feel relaxed or guarded, energized or depleted? Your body tells the truth long before your mind rationalizes it. And when you honor that truth, you protect your health. Another important aspect of long-term resilience is self-trust. Every time you ignore your intuition to maintain a connection, you weaken self-trust. Every time you override your boundaries to avoid discomfort, you create internal conflict. That conflict increases stress, but when you act in alignment with your standards, even if it means letting someone go, you strengthen self-trust. And self-trust reduces anxiety. You feel grounded because you know you will not abandon yourself. This internal reliability becomes a source of calm confidence. You do not need constant reassurance because you trust your ability to handle outcomes. You know that even if something ends, you will remain intact. That knowledge is deeply regulating. It changes how you move through the world. You speak more clearly, you listen more attentively. You choose relationships that feel reciprocal rather than chaotic. You understand that love should not require you to sacrifice your stability. And here is a gentle reminder: healing is not linear. There will be days when memories feel stronger. There will be moments when you miss what was. That is human. The difference now is that you do not let those waves pull you under. You feel them, breathe through them, and continue forward. Each time you do that, you reinforce resilience. Over weeks and months, this steady practice reshapes your baseline. Your default state becomes calmer. Your reactions become measured. Your health markers, from sleep quality to energy levels, begin to improve. And perhaps most importantly, you begin to experience freedom from emotional leverage. When someone can no longer destabilize you with inconsistency, you reclaim autonomy over your inner world. That autonomy is not loud, it is not dramatic, it is quiet and powerful. Now let us bring everything together and look at what happens when grounded independence becomes part of your identity, not just a temporary strategy. When you stop chasing emotional closure and begin cultivating emotional clarity, your sense of self quietly reorganizes. You are no longer defining yourself by who stayed, who left, or who chose you. You begin defining yourself by how you live, how you respond, and how consistently you honor your own well-being. This shift reshapes your identity at the core. Instead of thinking, I am someone who was rejected, you begin thinking, I am someone who grows. Instead of seeing yourself as abandoned, you see yourself as refining. That subtle change in internal language has a measurable effect on your confidence and mental health. The stories you tell yourself influence your nervous system. When your story moves from loss to growth, your body responds with strength instead of stress. You begin to walk differently, not because you are trying to impress anyone, but because you are no longer carrying the weight of seeking validation. You speak with more intention. You listen without anxiety. You enter conversations without scanning for approval. This is what emotional clarity feels like. It feels clean. It feels grounded. Future relationships also change because your standards are no longer reactive. You are not searching for someone to fill a void. You are looking for someone who complements a stable foundation. That difference is everything. When you are emotionally dependent, you may tolerate inconsistency because the fear of losing connection outweighs the discomfort. But when you are internally anchored, inconsistency feels immediately misaligned. You notice it early, and instead of trying to correct or manage it, you calmly assess whether it fits your standards. This is not coldness, it is self-respect. You no longer romanticize potential over patterns. You pay attention to actions. You value reliability. You understand that chemistry without consistency creates anxiety, and anxiety is not a sustainable form of connection. As a result, the relationships you choose begin to reflect your internal stability. They feel calmer, they feel reciprocal, communication feels clearer, there is less guessing, less tension, less emotional turbulence. Your nervous system remains balanced rather than constantly activated. That balance protects your health long term. Chronic emotional chaos drains energy that could otherwise be invested in purpose, creativity, and growth. When your inner world is steady, you reclaim that energy. You channel it into meaningful goals. You develop routines that support your body and mind. You pursue interests not to distract yourself, but because they genuinely fulfill you. Purpose begins to emerge naturally in this space. Purpose does not always arrive as a dramatic revelation. Sometimes it begins with simple discipline. You commit to regular exercise. You improve your sleep habits. You reduce screen time before bed. You nourish your body with intention. You invest in friendships that feel supportive. These consistent actions create momentum. Momentum builds identity. You start to see yourself as someone reliable, someone disciplined, someone aligned. That internal alignment reduces the need for external validation. You no longer measure your value by how desired you are. You measure it by how consistently you show up for your own life. And this is where deep peace forms. Peace is not the absence of emotion. It is the presence of stability. You can feel nostalgia without losing direction. You can remember someone without reopening the wound. You can wish them well without wishing them back. This emotional maturity strengthens your resilience. When future disappointments arise, and they will because life includes uncertainty, you will not collapse. You will feel, reflect, and respond with clarity. You will trust your capacity to navigate discomfort without abandoning your standards. That trust is transformative. You will notice that you no longer seek dramatic closure conversations. You understand that closure often comes from acceptance, not explanation. You release the need to be fully understood by someone who could not meet you consistently. Instead, you focus on understanding yourself more deeply. You ask healthier questions. What kind of partnership supports my long-term well-being? How do I want to feel on an ordinary day with someone? Calm, respected, encouraged, safe? These questions guide your future more effectively than any strategy designed to trigger a reaction. And perhaps the most profound realization is this: you stop trying to make someone feel your absence, and you start ensuring you never feel absent in your own life again. You become present with yourself. You notice your breathing. You notice when stress begins to rise, and you intervene early with rest, movement, or connection. You prioritize sleep because you understand its impact on emotional regulation. You maintain healthy routines because you recognize that stability in your body supports stability in your mind. This integration of emotional and physical care creates long-term resilience. Your baseline stress lowers. Your energy becomes more consistent. Your decision-making improves. You attract from alignment rather than desperation. And even if the person you once cared deeply about never returns, you recognize that the real reward was not their reaction, it was your refinement. You did not allow heartbreak to turn you bitter. You allowed it to strengthen your discipline. You did not let uncertainty define your worth. You used it to clarify your standards. You did not silence yourself to provoke attention. You steadied yourself to protect your peace. That is grounded independence. It is not loud. It does not demand recognition. It simply exists, steady and self-directed. As you move forward, remember this gently. Your health, both emotional and physical, thrives in stability. Choose routines that regulate your nervous system. Choose relationships that honor your standards. Choose thoughts that support growth rather than replay loss. Take a slow breath again. Feel the steadiness in your body. That steadiness is available to you, not because someone returned, but because you chose yourself. And when you choose yourself consistently, you become someone who no longer needs to withdraw to feel powerful. You become someone who is powerful because you are anchored, disciplined, and at peace. That kind of freedom will always carry more weight than silence ever could.